All right, so I'm diagnosing a breakdown that I had and narrowed it down to an ignition problem. Broke down, or I was going down the road, turned to the right after like a 40-mile vigorous ride, turned right, and bike started breaking up, so I drove it back to my buddy's house and narrowed it down to the ignition. And what I found was just looking through, I have the Pamco with the E-Advancer. When I went to look through the Pamco, I noticed when I turned right, these wires that I have were kind of tight. I loosened them up, but this this black wire was broken off of the advance board that I have secured nicely here in my ammo can instead of that big old headlight that used to be on there on the original factory setup. So I cleaned it up, put it through, and soldered it on there. With don't think the trace is hitting anything else. I've got a big old gob of solder on there, that one down there, and put it together. So after that, I got it back running again. Went for a ride, but the bike was breaking up, and it wouldn't. It just after a certain RPM, it was just breaking up, and then finally just stalled and didn't start again. Had my buddy tow me back and get it set up. So I'm diagnosing. Went through the Pamco description on testing the coil on the XS650 website, testing the coil, and then going through testing the Pamco. So I went through the coil, checked out pretty well, and so I started going through the Pamco. The voltages were there. There was one that was weird. There was like a full volt drop. I think it was from the green to green on the input to output side of the E-Advancer. So anyway, I thought, well, maybe that's right, and I'll test out the spark. So with the spark, you pull out the to test spark without the engine running, you pull out the pin and just have your rotor spin. So I'm going to turn the ignition on and show you what that's like. So you just pull the plug out, got it double grounded there, and so I went to the rotor here, and you spin it, and there is no spark. I don't know what the camera's focusing on, what you can see. So yeah, ripping through that, no spark. So went back up through and checked it out, and I noticed on the board here that, I don't know what angle I can get where you can see this, but that last ground, if we can get this to focus, see that last ground broken on that transistor. So I'm gonna solder that back up, check the other solder joints, and I expect maybe when that black came off, that black lead, sorry, the autofocus isn't working, when that black lead came off, it might have overheated near that solder joint, and plus you know how the bike vibrates, shook that loose. So we're going to get that soldered back together, and we'll come back and check, see if we get spark with that rotor still disconnected like it is. Okay, halfway through here, I took the old transistor out, and you know, I don't know how best to caution you about this, but obviously disconnect power from anything, disconnect the advancer. I'm not sure what kind of transistor it is. I'm hoping it's hardy enough that it could handle a soldering gun. Some of them are sensitive, and you'll blow the, I don't know, the layers in between them. You could fry it basically. But what I did was got down in there and cleaned out the contacts, well, the holes for the transistor, pulled all the solder out of it, and cleaned it up. And now I just set it in there, make sure it fits, because you don't want to bridge when you have a break like that. You don't want to bridge from solder to the leg. It's not as strong, obviously. Also, you don't want to go bending these legs too much. I did bend them a little bit, and then I'll bend it to lay it back over on that. I don't know if that's a heat sink or not, but to fit in the package, it needs to bend back over. So I'll finish soldering these three up. What I did, I hit it with hodgepodge. Hit it with a heat gun to warm it up, then hit it with a soldering gun to loosen the solder. And then I have a solder sucker connection from another soldering gun I have that I heat that up with the heat gun and suck the solder out of it, blew the solder out of it as well, so that helped. But you know, find a way to clean it up, get it clean the legs of the transistor off, and then slide it back in there. This one, I didn't quite get all the solder out of the ground there, so I set the other two in. Luckily, they're a little bit longer, and then I just pushed it down with the soldering gun on this side, and once the solder loosened up, I got the leg to stick through just the littlest bit there. And so I'm going to solder those, cut them off flush, lay that over, and then we'll do a spark test. Okay, we got it back, transistor back in, soldered in. Not the prettiest, it's about as pretty as my welding. Got to cut those before I set it back in the box, but I'm just going to leave it like this to see if it tests out well or not. So we got everything back together. I'm going to put the wiring back in, got that done, turn the ignition back on run, and we'll do the spin test again. Let's see if this fires now. Ooh, I heard something. Yeah, we're getting spark now. Every so often. Let's see what else is fried. Maybe it's got to go faster. Yeah. All right, so that seems to be working. Nice deal. We'll button it back up and see if we can get it running again. All right, we got the bike buttoned up after repairing the transistor. What I didn't hear. Putting the advance back together, I taped these wires. So I loosened them up from here, coming up through into the box, so they don't pull again. But if they do, I taped the wires to the box so they don't pull out of the board. They pull onto the tape first and give it a little stretch. So I'll tuck that back all in there and put the top on, put the lid back on. My trusty wrench that I put in there because I always break down. Not always, it's getting better. So I'm feeling pretty confident. I'm gonna just try starting it up right now. Ignition on, everything on. Let's see how it goes. Well, it wasn't doing that before, so that's good. No breaking up, just spitting out some black smoke. Gotta figure that out. Jetting. Of course, I got to redo the timing now that I took that all apart and messed with it. But I guess the moral of the story is check out the components on your e-advance. If you narrow it down to your ignition, you have Pamco. No fault of the Pamco. That was my error. Putting the wires in bad, but guess that's it. Get out and ride.